5 minutes remaining.
Centuries. That wizard came from the
Welcome, gamers, to a world of wonder, a world of weapons, of wizards from the moon. What? No, sorry. Now, Lunar Moon wizards aside, Bungie have crafted another sci-fi filled extravaganza with deep, diverse worlds, detailed environments, epic weaponry, and large supporting casts of aliens, humans, cyborgs. Whatever takes your fancy, your taste is catered for. With the new beta now in full effect across most platforms, I thought now's a good time to get a video up for the feedback of my recent hands-on with the alpha and my current playthrough of the beta. Once you start, you are presented with an option of 3 character crafts. You have Titan, Warlock, and Hunter. This then puts you down a path of set physical attributes, abilities throughout the game. You can then tailor this to choose your human race, alien, cyborg or robot. You choose what you want to be. This choice is then petered down into a further 3 options. You've got human, awoken and exo. Awoken is your alien, human is your human, and exo is obviously your cyborg robot version. You can then alter your face, your hair, your markings, and to tailor it specifically to how you want your character to look within reason. So far, so Mass Effect. And this is not the first feeling you get of a Mass Effect influence on this game. Other influences also creep in and are felt throughout. Not surprisingly, it has the feel of Halo, both in its visuals and its control system. Other inspiration comes from a much older source, Phantasy Star Online, a much lauded and missed classic by myself even on the Dreamcast. They share a similar central hub, in Destiny's case the tower, group quests and real-time battles rather than turn-based battles for most sci-fi MMOs. But it is not a copy, just instead a creative mixture of styles and genres into a persistent world with a strong linear storyline that you can flow through in solo or in group, and even have drop-in drop-out in games in the world that you don't know where anyone else is. They can just appear in the missions that you're doing or they're doing as you flow through the game. And this highlights a common theme we're seeing this gen, which is this hop in, hop out, online persistent co-op, which doesn't have to have a stop and start menu driven option. You can come in and go as you please. Now some may not like that, some may. It all depends on your time, lifestyle, how many hours you can stick into the game, but it's good to have that choice. Along with the linear story, you've got side quests which you can jump into and out of, and that feels a little GTA inspired. Bungie have gone down that route of giving you the choice that you're not always forced down a linear story path and you can choose to do these side quests. The other reason for these is obviously to boost your cash and your XP, which you can then use to improve your character. So your character's powers, if you're a warlock, your weaponry, your armor, and each class feels sufficiently different that you can actually play the game through and not struggle in parts because you don't have the abilities needed to get through. There's a good balance that people can use it and have their individual playstyles whilst also completing the game without any problems. Now the central hub that I mentioned earlier is very handy because the world does seem quite vast from the alpha and now the even slightly bigger beta that we've seen. You can see here that you've got the central hub for the tower, the earth, and then your Crucible multiplayer online matches, and then the rest of the galaxy will be traversable in the full game whenever you get it. And how big and how many planets is going to be at this point, I would imagine pretty damn epic. Now from this tower you can go in and buy mods for your vehicles, you can buy extra vehicles, weaponry, you can meet other people in quests, you can befriend and group and clan up, and you can sit and stare at the moon if you want to. You basically use it as your centralised area between missions and between quests to do what you want to do. Once you've done all that and boosted yourself up, got your weapons, spoke to people, increased your defense and attack in very standard RPG fashion, you can then go off on your missions and quests as you see fit. Once you do this, you end up landing on the planet in this beta, and what does that tell us visually? Well, we get to explore beautiful vistas baked in a rich lighting system with a full day and night cycle, and it really does look lovely in places. You can see here in this shot where it's complete daylight and the whole scene looks beautiful with the sun glistening down on the sea, and then we go to a twilight shot here, And again, you can see the rich red sunset setting across the land and the ground, highlighting all the different shadows and highlighting the shadow and lighting system of this game quite well. This game does include a lot of ambient lighting and a lot of dynamic lights and shadows, but it is a lot of baked shadows and baked maps. Huge amounts of shadow maps going on here, but there is a strong ambient occlusion running in this game. The lighting in this game is very, very strong, and like I've said before and keep saying over and over again, it highlights how big a part this is going to play in this generation when it comes to visuals. There's a subtle use of DOF when you can see me aiming on the gun here with little dynamic lights, and as I move the gun back and forth it DOFs in and out of what's in focus and what's not. And you can see the blurred effect around the edge of the screen as I zoom in, along with the chromatic aberration again. That fringing is here to stay, people. It's going to be all over this gen. Now, when you go inside, you can see the natural lighting system and the first problem with shadows in the game. Look at the flickering and dithering on the gun shadow for my character. You can see it better here as I walk up to this container and the dynamic light source at the back hits my shadow. You can see it's quite low res, and the dithering around the edge, it's quite flickery and dirty. That's something that I would imagine they would improve at a later version, but the new beta's got the same shadow effect going on there, so that's not improved that at all from my playthrough yesterday. Now, these are all minor niggles. This is obviously what I do. I'm picking up on stuff. Once we go indoors, we can see the interior design of the game and where the lighting affects everything. So you've got lots of buzzing and flickering lights, lots of light shafts beaming through different parts, and direct sources hitting the textures and the walls, giving you that look of natural lighting which is in abundance in this game. All internal assets have a fixed lighting structure devoid of the time cycle, so this is easier to achieve than outdoors. You still have real-time shadows on your characters and some enemies, but in the alpha these are very low res, as I've just gone through. I played through this on the PS4, so it runs at a 1080 and 30 frames per second, a frame rate that Bungie are happy with, and they have confirmed that the X1 will also run this when it's finally released, although the beta is probably going to be running 900p when it comes out next week. Now, this is thanks to the 10% Connect Payback GPU timeshare that's now come from the latest update. Now, this is obviously just the PR talk. This 10% is not going to make the difference between 900 and 1080p. You're talking nearly double the resolution there from one to t'other. That's not coming from a 10% update. A near 70% resolution increase is more likely coming from a software update from Microsoft. And the 10% is better than nothing, of course, but it isn't the only thing that's going on. There's a lot of work that's been going on from Bungie and other developers to get parity on these software and these systems. Now, that's not something that Sony and Microsoft or anybody else are pushing to get to do. It just makes perfect sense from business. You don't want to have a system running a completely underpowered, crappy looking version, because you're just going to be cannibalizing sales from yourself, and where's the point in that? The X1 and to a lesser degree the PS4 launched with much weaker and incomplete dev software. The system and the entire development methods change and evolve. The higher level of 3 gig of RAM allocation to the OS on these machines is one such example. The rule is simple: you can always give back, but you can never take away. Sony learned this the hard way in the PS3 era, and its cross-game chat disaster. They learnt from their mistakes, and this time they're playing it safe and reserving a hell of a lot more RAM, just as Microsoft have done with their Kinect. As time's gone on and they've realised there's no point in that, and this has been borne out again by Microsoft now giving up on their TV platform and they're concentrating back into games, which is the right thing to do. Again, the same thing has happened with the development of these consoles and how much they've allocated to operating system. They'll realise over time that they don't need that much and they can give some of those RAMs back. And I would not be surprised to see around another gig given back to both these systems later on in the life cycle. And this will all help improve the games that these consoles can muster in all areas, from textures, lighting, worlds and animation. And this is going to affect PC gamers as well. You're already seeing it on console games that are coming to PC where 2 gig is not enough, and this is a clear and apparent issue that's going to go for this generation. I would imagine 4 gig plus is going to be the base mark you're going to need to run games that are running on consoles at this point. It's only going to get bigger. RAM's always been important, it always will be. And talking of animation, on Destiny they do a very good job. Characters have a skeletal system employed, so shots and explosions affect them accordingly. Some ragdoll physics are employed, as you can see here, and intercut animation is very good throughout. And again, the game and the engine are all built from the PS3 and the 360 as a base, again proving that there is only so much anyone can do when this is part of the process. Full next-gen games like Assassin's Creed Unity, The Division, Batman and The Witcher 3 are some examples of where these games are designed from the ground up for next gen, and how they can affect the animation, the lighting, the visual style, and the scope of the game. The amount of baked lighting and animations in this game, and the huge loading times, although this is an early alpha that could be improved, and it is something that I genuinely do believe they could improve, are quite long. There's streaming and compression evidence in the engine, and the consoles do have or employ a HDO implementation, which is basically Bungie's own version of high def ambient occlusion, which just gives a more solid and depth look to shadows based on where the sun is in proximity to the object, or indeed any light source that's hitting it. On the PS3 and the 360, it doesn't look that bad, at least from the PS3 versions that I've seen. I haven't managed to play a PS3 version of the beta yet. But again, it's the 30 frames per second running across all machines. Now, I do believe that even the Xbox One could run this game at 60 frames per second or thereabouts. Certainly the PS4 could get close to it as well, and I don't believe it's something that's been held back by the two next gen or now gen consoles. I believe it's about Bungie wanting to make sure that all gamers have the same experience across all platforms. In fact, they've said as much, and that means that nothing is in evident on any of these versions that isn't in evident on another. And the 30 frames per second with the quality of these visuals and the game style that it is something that it does feel a little amiss. And the frame rate in the PS4 version at least is a lovely solid 30 frames per second. I don't feel it's got any dips, but it does have what's called frame pacing issues, and you can feel this in the game. It's kind of got this weird judder effect, and there are other games that had this in effect as well. Need for Speed had it when that first launched, and Halo Reach has it as well. And this is one of the game styles, the genres, that does appreciate the 60 frames per second response coming from it. Don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful looking game. With its anisotropy lighting in effect, it's got ambient light sources, direct light sources, it's got a beautiful particle-based system in there, it's got alpha effects galore. It really does look visually very pleasing, with both translucent and opaque objects being affected by light independently. But by and large, it should be running at 60 frames per second. And this is something that I can't excuse for Bungie based on what I'm looking at. It does not feel like it's a 30 frames, but more of like a pull down effect from the actual game itself. So I'm hoping that they sort this out, because it is a kind of like a micro stutter effect that you get with SLI or Crossfire games. The visual quality should be aiming for 60 frames per second. Being a first person shooter, it's a genre that benefits most from the increase in responsiveness, and it feels like it's something that's holding it back a little bit from the engine origins, and it's split across 4 diverse platforms and across 2 generations. PC is not even included in this quotation at this point. Taking an engine designed for 30 and making it 60 is not an easy thing to do. The Last of Us does it, but that's first party and it's all done on one single platform. It makes a very hard task easier. Not easy, but easier. It's not a high pressure Twitch based shooter, but that 33 to 16 millisecond change in responsiveness on control would make a difference, and the judder does need to be sorted. You can get away with the frame rate in the game and it doesn't feel like it's ending, but it is something that I hope Bungie do address before launch. It would just aid the experience that little bit better. Now, along with the story and side quest, you've also got the multiplayer side of the game. So you can use the Crucible match types in this beta, and they basically take on Destiny's version of Capture the Flag. On the beta alpha, you basically get 2 maps, which is a close quarter corridor based shooter called Rusted Lands, which is a vertical and horizontal aspect of the game type, so you have to keep your eyes and wits about you from above, behind and around corners. This then offers up a very tactical game style map where you can have your attacks coming from above and behind you, and also you can then make your attacks from above and behind. If you're playing with a team or friends that play supportively and cooperatively, it ends up being a very fun game type, and you dominate the other team in the areas, and that makes it fun and exciting to boot. And then for the other map, we return to the moon, devoid of any wizards this time, and instead replaced with vehicles and guns on its open space, free roam traversal style, which is definitely more suited to the vehicles and gun turrets dotted throughout. Destiny then goes all Jedi on us and gives us a speeder bike, which is by far and away the best vehicle in the alpha, allowing for fast and precise travel around the map and strong firepower to humiliate your foes. It also helps to flee from the area when the going gets tough and the odds are stacked against you. The games on this map are fun, and the map is well structured and well paced, offering many methods of play. Even lone wolves can succeed if skilled enough on this playstyle, and it also pays to upgrade your vehicles and your weaponry in the game. By using the other aspects of the game styles with the extra missions and the side quests to increase your experience and your money, you can then upgrade your weapons and vehicles, and you will very soon feel outgunned and impotent against some of the larger and more powerful enemies on offer on your online playthroughs. As Indy was once told, choose wisely. My choice was the sniper rifle for long distance and the plasma rifle for when things get all up in your grill. Now, I'll be trying out later on is different weapons in the game because I wasn't quite sure if this was the best tactical approach. Melee in the game also has that Halo feel about it. Many a time you will do the same thing you did in Halo where you run at each other, shooting the crap out of each other from your weapons, and then at the last minute whap your melee out to have a dual death at the end of the map. This happens generally in the game, and that basically sums up my thoughts on this game at this point. It feels like an advanced version of the MMO version of Halo. It is fun, don't get me wrong, it is massive, it's got a lot of style and charisma, it looks beautiful. The multiplayer aspect is by far and away the most fun I've had in the beta. I'm sure that this is a big draw with the crowds when people buy this game, and it's the first time you've basically been able to play Halo on a non-Microsoft console. Everything about it has that Halo feel in combat, in style, in setup and the sci-fi action, but it's advanced. The storyline is the same old, the war's going to end and only you can save it. There's no point me going into detail about what that is because I think everyone and their mother knows how the Destiny story plays out. The Fallen are your enemy, and then online matches are just online matches, an excuse to kill each other repeatedly over and over again. The weapons in the game and the multiplayer feel quite balanced. Certainly, if you don't upgrade quite quickly, you can very quickly feel as if you're being overwhelmed and beaten into submission because other people's weaponry is far more in advance of your own. So my top tip is spend a bit of time, do some quests, get some money, bop up your experience and upgrade your weapons and your spells in the game. Otherwise, it will become frustrating and you won't feel like you can put up a good fight against most of the other people in the game. That said, if you're into online and multiplayer aspect games with a bunch of friends that you like to play online, Destiny is sure to deliver, and I'm sure this will be a big hit this summer when it releases. Myself, I'm liking it. It's exactly what I thought it would be. It's no more. I can't really say more than that. I'm a little disappointed that it's not 60 FPS. That said, this is a great game, and I'm sure many people will argue with me and say, oh no, it's amazing, what you're talking about, and that's fair enough. For me, it's very good. I will certainly pick it up, but I can't see myself losing months of my life into this game. It just doesn't draw me in enough. I'm not the only one buying games, and I'm sure millions of others are going to love and live on this game. Anyway, as always, thank you guys and girls for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please put your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this or any of my other stuff, then please hit that sub button. It really helps me and I cannot stress how much I appreciate it. If you like, give it a thumbs. If you don't, tell me what you don't like below. I always like to hear your thoughts and feedback. Anyway, as always, you guys and girls take care, and I'll see you soon on the moon.